Next on Max TV, we take a look at Darchinyan's destruction of Arce. We preview HBO's Boxing After Dark, and we have news and notes coming up on the next round. And welcome to the next round. Steve Kim joined by Gabe Montoya, going through everything in the game of boxing. We have a jam-packed show. We begin round number 1, where there was a raging bull at the Honda Center in Anaheim, where it was showtime. Your main event for the WBC, BA, and IBF Junior Bantamweight title, Vic Darchinyan was dominant, stopping Jorge Arce in 11 exciting rounds. Darchinyan moves to 32-1-1. Arce drops to 51-5-1. Beginning this telecast, young lightweight Antonio DeMarco with a huge statement victory, stopping Kid Diamond in 9 rounds. DeMarco's record now is 21-1-1. Gabriel, looking at the main event, 2 things really stood out to me. Number 1 was Vic Darchinyan's elusiveness and speed. Also at the same time, the heart and the courage of Jorge Arce.
Yeah, that was, to me, the most impressive thing. To me, Darchinyan looked a little bit like he underestimated Arce, that he thought he would blow him out in about 6-7 rounds and get rid of him. What he didn't count on was Arce kind of adjusting to him, getting to his body, because Arce started out looking like he was completely confused by the weird style of Darchinyan. But then after a while, he started to crowd him inside, tie him up, and dig to that body, and by 6 or 7, Darchinyan was looking a little worse for wear.
You know, I thought that Darchinyan was winning the large majority of rounds. I thought there may have been 1 round that Arce may have won, but even in those middle rounds, as you noted, Gabe, 5, 6, and 7, even though he wasn't winning those rounds, the gap was closing in terms of what was going on in those 3 minutes. I give Arce a lot of credit because he wasn't there just to be a game loser, as they say. In other words, see the end of the fight and say, I went the distance. He was actually trying to lay traps, and he was taking risks on the inside to try to win the fight. But the speed and the reflexes just were not there. Like a Nonito Donaire, Gabe, he tried to land that left hook over the top by timing him, but the execution and speed were not there. And I really believe the one underrated facet of Vic Darchinyan, especially in light of the loss to Nonito Donaire, is really the fact he's very hard to hit cleanly.
Yeah, no, he was able to slip underneath. He kind of moves in and out. You never know where his hands are going to be or where they're going. I mean, he's an elusive guy, and I think you mentioned this after the fight, that everybody's so lost in his power and how explosive it is that they forget just how fast and elusive he really is.
Yeah, speed, quickness, the ability to change directions and also accelerate. He's got fast, heavy hands. I mean, you want to talk about a guy, the old adage, losses can make fighters better. I think Vic Darchinyan is the perfect example. Since that loss to Nonito Donaire in July of 2007, he had a very disputed draw to Z Gores that I thought he won easily. But from that point forward, he has taken apart Dmitry Kirillov, a very slick boxer, an ultimate slickster in Christian Maharaj, and then he devastated Jorge Arce like expected. I think you have to give this guy credit. When you look at all the pound-for-pound lists, you really don't see Darchinyan as a consensus member of that list. You know what? I think it's time that he gets a place within that top 10 to 15 in the world today.
Oh, easily top 10. I mean, he's clearly one of the best fighters in the world. He certainly has one of the most original styles we've seen in years. And in terms of excitement, there's very few guys, maybe Pacquiao, that's as exciting every time you see him. You never know what he's going to do. You wonder where those hands are going to go. He's just exciting and fun to watch.
Looking at both futures, I think Jorge Arce, who was rushed to the hospital, 57 professional bouts, a lot of wear and tear. And in recent years, many of them have become very, very tough, even against mediocre opposition. I have a feeling that he has 1 or 2 farewell fights that he wins, and he rides off into the sunset.
I think that would be just. I think that's what he needs. 2 farewell fights, and let's call it a day. You know, he's only, 29 years old, and he's approaching 60 fights. I mean, that's a lot of miles on a guy, especially when he's going the distance. He's getting cut almost every fight. He's just got a lot of wear and tear on him. And for a warrior like that, I don't want to see him become a stepping stone.
Yeah, I mean, Gabe, if he was a car, he was the type of guy that has stepped over a lot of rough terrain, has not been an easy highway at 2 o'clock in the morning. As for Vic Darchinyan, I think the options are endless and very, very exciting. I get the sense that Gary Shaw means it. He will not deal with a disloyal fighter. I don't think they want Nonito Donaire. Also, from a boxing perspective, let's be honest, Gary Shaw's a pretty shrewd guy. He knows Nonito Donaire's style and temperament and hand speed would always trouble Vic Darchinyan. So it's very, very convenient for him to say, that's one guy we won't face. So let's put that to the side. Moving up to 118 is the other guy that holds the current 115 belt at the WBO. That is Fernando Montiel. I also think that's a very, very tough fight stylistically for Darchinyan. I do think within the next 6 to 8 months, he will either be fighting Rafael Marquez and Israel Marquez at 122, Gabe, not only because they're great fights, the risk-reward pendulum works out in their favor.
Yeah, it seemed like Montiel was at the fight and seemed to be calling out Vic Darchinyan, trying to set up a bout. But then afterwards, Darchinyan couldn't find him, didn't know where he was, and said, look, bring something, get a belt, the WBBUUUUU or something like that is what he called it. Whatever belt you can bring to the table, and then maybe we'll make the fight, which kind of led me to believe that they don't really want Montiel. They want Vasquez.
Yeah, Montiel, here's the thing. Montiel has the ability, unlike Arce at this stage, to change directions, turn on a dime, and to hit him with quick counter shots. And he himself is very light on his feet and very, very elusive. He is fighting for the vacant WBA 18-pound title March 28th. But right now, Fernando Montiel, to me, does not have the profile of Marquez and Vasquez. Also, I know this goes against conventional wisdom, Gabe. I don't know if you agree with me. With the wear and tear on both Marquez and Vasquez that they inflicted on each other, going all the way up from 115 to 122, if you're ever going to do it, especially with one guy having a very damaged eye who has not fought in a while, you know what? With the money you make, I would roll the dice.
Absolutely. If you're going to cash in against two guys that have spent the last year beating each other up in 3 consecutive brutal fights. Those are the perfect opponents for you. Although I think Marquez would be very dangerous for him. He's a very slick boxer. He's got great power. I think Vasquez matches up better with Darchinyan.
Yeah, I agree. The thing about Marquez, he has the size of almost a 130-pounder with those big shoulders. And you're right, the one-punch eraser. All it would take is one right hand from Rafael Marquez. While you look at Israel Vasquez, he has struggled against mediocre fighters before in the past, like Guerrero. I think if there's a guy that you face, it is Israel Vasquez. And I think with the fan appeal in Southern California and the way he's received, if you want to make a fight from a box office standpoint with the Armenian crowd and the loyal Mexicans, I actually believe that it is Darchinyan Marquez that'll be on the docket. Talking about a young fighter that really stepped up, Antonio DeMarco, really taking the heart away from Kid Diamond. I was surprised. I thought Diamond's strength and experience would be too much. But guess what? When it was all said and done, when the fight came down to the nitty-gritty, the kid just wanted it more, and he bit down on his mouth guard.
Yeah, coming into the fight, I thought that DeMarco would win, but I thought it would go the distance. I thought he'd have to walk through fire and take a lot of punches, maybe even hit the canvas before pulling out a win. I was really surprised when he came out of the 8th. I had him down by 3 rounds on my card, and he came out like a man on a mission and just unloaded on Diamond and finished out the fight. I was really surprised.
I had that fight very, very close. What was interesting to me, 2 of the official scorecards had DeMarco ahead 88-83. The other one had him down by 1, 86-85. I thought it was very interesting that Kid Diamond, though, was being told in his corner, you're in the fight, you can still win it. It is not the corner or doctor that stopped the fight. It was very, very evident. It was Kid Diamond himself who claimed he was ill, that he had the flu. With that being said, Kid Diamond has not been a very consistent performer, but you have to give credit to the kid. Antonio DeMarco was thought to be the heavy, decided underdog. Most boxing folks, Gabe, did not believe he was going to win this fight. DeMarco is one of these guys. He's tall and he's lean, but do not let that fool you. He seems like he has a lot of toughness and heart.
Yeah, I mean, you can't measure heart. I mean, we were talking about it at ringside that he looks a little frail for the weight, but as the fight progressed, a young lion came out. We got to see what this kid was really made of, and we kind of saw a future champion born right before our eyes. I mean, that 9th round just really blew me away. He just became a completely different person and just unloaded the kitchen sink, and he wrested control of the fight and won it. It was beautiful.
Absolutely. So there you have it. The Raging Bull stars on Showtime. We come back. We take a look at the HBO Tripleheader. Round number 2 of the next round, Steve Kim, Gabriel Montoya talking boxing. We have a tripleheader after dark on HBO from Sunrise, Florida. For the WBA, IBF, and WBO lightweight belts, Nate Campbell takes on his mandatory challenger, Ali Funica. And junior middleweights in action, Alfred Angulo takes on late replacement Danny Perez. And for the WBC junior middleweight title, Sergio Martinez takes on Kermit Citron. I think we have some live dogs in this card. I'm looking very, very much to this tripleheader on HBO. Ali Funica is an unknown quantity. He has a big record. Those can be very deceiving, but looking at his fight against Zahir Rahim, he also has big power. He's tall, he's rangy, he's physically strong, and he's young. You know what? I am very, very tempted to take him over Nate Campbell.
Yeah, since his loss in 2002 to Bizanca Fana, he's been on a 13-fight win streak, and in those 13 fights, he's won 11 of them by KO, early KO. I think he's kind of a straight up and down fighter. He just relies way too much on the 1-2, and he doesn't really have much of an inside game. But he is great at keeping range and using his 6'1" advantage at this weight class. I think if Campbell can't handle his power, it's going to be an early night. But if he can, I think Campbell's a better overall skilled guy, and he's going to take the fight inside and really beat Funica up.
Yeah, as Floyd Mayweather would be apt to say, straight up and down, no special effects is Ali Funica. But keeping it basic could also be very, very simple, and it's also the easiest way to box. You have to be fundamentally sound. Here's the thing that worries me about Nate Campbell. He hasn't fought in a while. Number 2 is also the age. And number 3, look at his history, Gabe. No matter what the alibis are, I'm not saying that they're not valid. He's been up and down like the Dow Jones. There has not been a lot of consistency, and I think it really did hurt Nate not being able to fight Joan Guzman on several fronts. Number 1, ring rust, and number 2, the fact that he lost a lot of money and had to file for bankruptcy. I think Ali Funica is a live dog. I'm going to go with the upset special, and I will tab Ali Funica to win a 12-round decision over the Galaxy Warrior. It was supposed to be Ricardo Mayorga against Alfredo Angulo. You know what? I think, believe it or not, that Danny Perez, coming off a pretty good win against Julio Cesar Garcia back in September, he's a sturdy old veteran who's very, very tough. I think this version of Danny Perez is better than the current version of Ricardo Mayorga. I think Pedro Angulo's in for a real fight.
Absolutely. I think he's going the decision. I mean, Perez is kind of a standard fighter again, but he throws a lot of punches. He's got a solid jab. He doesn't get hit too much that it's going to be a big problem and get a stoppage. And I don't believe he's ever been stopped. So, no, I look for this to be a war all the way down and a big test for Angulo, but I look for him to pull out the decision.
Yeah, Danny Perez has gone quality rounds, I believe 20 of them with Antonio Margarito, and he has weathered the Tijuana Tornado fairly well. Here's the thing about Angulo. Everyone is anointing him as the next great thing. I think he's a very, very good prospect. I think there's a lot of promise. But we have to remember, Gabe, he does not even have, I believe, 15 or 16 fights yet. He's still very, very green. And the one thing, everyone is saying, wow, look how great he looked against Andre Serkan. Gabe, I was out there that night. Andre Serkan was basically an everlast punching bag with legs on it, but with less mobility. I think, to me, if Danny Perez can box a little bit from the outside and use his veteran savvy and wily, I think this is a very, very tough fight. I'll say it right now. This will be Angulo's toughest fight. I think he wins a close 10-round decision.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think it's going to go down to the wire. And I think one thing that we need to watch with him is lack of head movement. He's got all the punches, and he's got actually an underrated defense, a nice jab, but the head doesn't move. And I often look at him as kind of this version, or this generation's version of Yuri Boy Campos, where he's got a lot of power, and he really comes forward and is great with the pressure. But he gets hit a little bit too much for me. I think it was Ruben Williams that rocked his world. No, it was Gutierrez that rocked his world and hurt him. And now, Perez isn't known as a big knockout puncher, but he did knock down Antonio Margarito in the first round of their first fight. So I look for this to be a huge test, but Angulo to pull it out.
Yeah, one thing I noticed about Angulo being there ringside against Serkan, and what you really can't gauge quite as much on television, is the lack of speed. And Angulo is there to be hit. He's not a speed demon, and you're right. I actually like that Yuri Boy Campos comparison. Short, compact, powerful punchers, but I do have a feeling certain styles are going to give them a lot of trouble. Also, third fight on this card, junior middleweights in action. Sergio Martinez takes on Kermit Cintron. I think Kermit Cintron is a guy that's not given enough credit for really doing a lot with not that much natural boxing instinct. He's strong, powerful, and he's a good offensive fighter. I think he has a puncher's chance, but I like the overall class and technique and the experience of Sergio Martinez.
You know what's interesting about this fight is both these guys are very similar. Martinez didn't start boxing, period, until he was like 22, 23, and he went straight pro. He didn't have an amateur background. Cintron, on the other hand, also started really late and had an amateur career of less than 30 fights starting at about 19 years of age. So these are two guys that are kind of self-made boxers that have had to get by on athleticism, instinct, and the skills that they picked up along the way. I've never seen Kermit take on a speedy left-hander like this. I think, like you said, he's got a puncher's chance. But I think he's in tough with a guy that really, since his loss to Antonio Margarito, has really come into his own. I mean, he's in his 46th fight, something like that, and has really developed an interesting style. He's almost kind of Joe Calzaghe-like, the way he moves around, uses his awkward southpaw style, hands at his sides, but throws speedy combos and then gets the hell out of there before you can hit him. I really like this fight a lot. I think it's going to go down to a decision, and I think Martinez is going to take it.
Yeah, two factors. Also, Sergio Martinez, if he has to box his way to a victory and stink it out, he definitely has the capabilities. And number two, natural weight. Kermit Citron enjoys a huge physical advantage over most welterweights he fights. This fight is at 154. So if you ask me who is the natural junior middleweight as of now, I would have to say it is Sergio Martinez.
There's one thing, looking at Martinez's record, the one thing I will give Kermit in this fight, besides having the bigger punch, he's got much more world championship experience. He's been in with better people. I mean, in the last 6 fights of Martinez, he's only 2 guys have actually been on winning streaks. One of the guys was actually 3-34 in a 4-rounder. And to be fighting fights like that at this late of a career, it makes me wonder if seeing him is a little bit of a mirage.
And another factor, I think that's a very good point. Alex Bunima, I know he had that big victory over Roman Karmazin, who just fell apart at the end. But let's be honest about it. Roman Karmazin was a rusty fighter at the very end of his career. And Alex Bunima is a guy who's certainly past his prime. And I agree, that may have been a bit of a mirage, but I just get the sense, even though you're matched softly sometimes, the guy being matched soft may actually be very, very good still. But I think this card is outstanding. This is what HBO Boxing After Dark should be. Gabe, in my opinion, I could be wrong on all 3 predictions. I think we're going to get at least 1 or 2 good fights, and I think there will be an upset on Saturday night. At least 1, though, because I really do like this card.
I'm going to go with Funica in the upset special.
Oh, did I change your mind?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, yeah, just sitting here thinking about it. I'm going to go Funica 8th round KO.
I am an influential man. When we come back, we wrap it up with news and notes. And we wrap things up here with news and notes. Steve, Kim, Gabriel Montoya talking boxing. There was another edition of Showbox, the new generation, and it was super middleweight Andre Ward moving to 18-0 with a 12-round snoozer over Henry Buchanan, who drops to 17-3. Ward goes to 18-0, and junior lightweight prospect Johnny Molina with a TKO-3 over Joshua Alote. First of all, you must be given a Purple Heart or a Congressional Medal of Honor, because you actually braved the 3.5 drive up from Los Angeles to Lemoore to see this snoozer. Andre Ward is a prospect that I like. I don't love him, but I would describe his style as being fluid. I don't think there's a real definition to it, but he's very good at it. But I think it's clear. I've seen enough of his fights against guys like Henry Buchanan and guys like, who did he fight the last time out there in that Caribbean island? He's good at the C and D level. At least get him to the B and A level, because I really believe it's time for him to step up to the next level. Yeah,
there's rumors of him taking on Alan Green. I think that's a perfect fight. I think Green will test his chin. I think he'll test his heart a little bit. What I liked about Andre Ward in this fight was that he hurt Buchanan early. They got into a clinch. He landed this really nice compact left hook that just buckled his knees. And from that moment on, Buchanan became one of the hardest opponents to deal with. A guy that's barely tap you with the jab and get behind his shell defense and just move and stink out the joint. And Ward really worked his ass off trying to make a fight out of it. I will give him that.
Well, the thing about Sugar Poo, and I've noticed this from that super middleweight tournament they had about 2 years ago, Sugar Poo is what they'd say in the old days or back in England as having a very, very negative style. And you look at the 3 scorecards, this was not a no-hitter. This was a perfect game. All 3 judges had it 120 to 108. And I agree with you. Once Ward tested those whiskers and proved that he can hurt them, Henry Buchanan had no other real goal than to survive. He was not there to win. But I also think that it's time that Andre Ward gets a significant step up. I was there. The last fight I was referring to was Jerson Ravello in the Cayman Islands.
Right.
That was a much more exciting, much more entertaining fight. Not necessarily because of Andre Ward. He is who he is. But it's also because the style of Jerson Ravello is much more suited. He's much more orthodox, and he's also going to take some risks offensively. I think you need to match Andre Ward in a way where he's not fighting another guy that's going to be trying to lay traps and be very negative. I think Andre Ward can be an exciting fight if he is allowed to face certain styles. Gabe, John Molina, I thought, looked pretty good with his new trainer, Joe Goosen.
Yeah.
One thing, though, that bothers the hell out of me about the way this game is refereed is that Alote was hit by a legitimate body shot in the 3rd round, and the referee, I think, was kind of talked into or hustled into thinking that was a low blow, and he didn't call what he saw. He called what he thought was the right thing, and to me, if he just started counting to 10, Alate doesn't roll around on the floor like he's John Bobbitt. He starts to get up. I think, to me, referees have got to stop falling for the hustle.
Yeah, you know, it was interesting. I talked to Dan Snell after the fight, and I asked him about it because we actually found a photograph that showed it was clearly a rib shot that dropped him. It wasn't a low blow. He was positioned slightly behind the fighter, Alati, and basically the decision he made was off the sound that Alati made. Normally if a guy gets hit in the ribs or in the liver, they're kind of gasping for air, they're trying to find their name, and they're a bit paralyzed. With this, he didn't really hear a sound, and he didn't make a yelp or anything when he got hit low. So he really wasn't sure, and so he erred on the side of a low blow. He took the fighter's word, and I agree with you. I think if he had started counting to 10, the guy would have either gotten up or would have been knocked out by a body shot.
It would have been like Eddie Murphy in Trading Places when he said he had no legs and legs popped out and he screams, "It's a miracle." I think that's exactly what would have happened. As for Johnny Molina, he's a big, strong kid, but also a kid that wrestled in high school, didn't have much of an amateur career. I think Joe Goossen's going to do some good things with them, but despite the record, which is still undefeated and shiny, I think he's a project. I think you have to take him very, very slow, and he's not a kid that you move fast. I think you really have to polish up that diamond going into the future.
Spacing-wise, I mean, I think he's getting a little bit better, and I think that's something that Goossen is bringing out in him because he has kind of a Diego Corrales instinct about him that he likes to get into the phone booth, despite being really tall for the weight at 5'10", 5'11". He really likes to crowd and get inside and work in a phone booth type of fight. I think he needs to use that jab more like he was doing, keep that spacing and set up his combinations. He's a good prospect.
But unlike Chico, who could make punches so compact, for a guy with long arms, he could throw a hook that was this short.
Right.
Johnny Molina has a lot of looseness, a lot of fat on his punches, and that's one thing Joe's going to try to clean up, is making him have a tighter punching frame. Moving on to the fight review. Friday Night Fights, Yusef Mack with a split decision in 12 over Chris Henry, and Fernando Guerrero with an 8-round decision over Gabriel Rosado. On TV Azteca from Maywood, California, Jesus Soto Cross an exciting 10-round decision over Carson Jones. Then Saturday in Germany, Ruslan Shagayev with a technical decision in 6 over Carl Drummond. And for the WBA junior welterweight title, Andreas Kotelnik, split decision in 12 over Marcos Medina. I think Yusef Mack clearly won this fight against Chris Henry. And you know what? At 175, Yusef Mack, I don't know if he's a true world-class performer because I think there's issues with strength and stamina. But I think at the very least, he's a very, very solid top 15 to top 20 contender.
Yeah, absolutely. I was surprised. I picked Henry to pull this fight out, but that right hand of Yusef Mack just changed everything in the 6th, and he just took control. I didn't have it a split decision. I had it a UD.
Yeah, I had it about 8-4 for Yusef Mack. If you go by ring generalship and clean punches, I thought it was the Mack truck all the way. And Fernando Guerrero, I tell you what, for the health of the game, I hope this kid is a fighter. I don't know if he is or not, but the fact that a Dominican Republic native can draw 7,000 exuberant fans in Maryland, I think is outstanding for the business of boxing.
And he's an exciting fighter. You know, for me personally, there's nothing better than a guy that gets knocked down, gets right back up, and then goes and wins the fight. And that's exactly what he did. I like his style. I love southpaws, and the guy was really all action. I can't wait to see the next fight.
Gabe, Jesus Soto Cross, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. He's Margarito Light.
Yeah, he definitely is. And you wrote something about him needing a strength and conditioning coach. I couldn't agree more. I mean, the guy's got a nice frame. He's big for his weight, but man, he's just a little soft around the middle.
Yeah, you know, the one thing I've always said about Margarito, his greatest strength is not anything he does in the ring. It's really his work ethic. This is a guy that's got everything out of his ability, who works hard, who puts on the hard hat, punches the clock, goes to work. Soto Cross is a great guy. He's a real character, real fun-loving personality. Work ethic is a little bit questionable, and you saw what happened. He had a good start, and all of a sudden he'd also fade, and then he had to rally back. He's going to make for fun fights, but for him to match his maximum potential and reach his ceiling, his work ethic is going to have to go up 2 or 3 notches.
Yeah, when you're kind of a workman-like guy, when you have to bring your lunch pail and you know you don't have like huge one-punch knockout power. I mean, he's got good power, but when you know you're going to probably be there until 8, 9, 10, 11, you're going to want to show up in the best possible condition that you can, and I'm not quite seeing that yet from him, but hopefully we will.
Yeah, and the next day in Germany, Ruslan Shagayev, a technical decision in 6 over Carl Drummond in a fight that was pretty much a snoozer. Let's be honest about that. Yeah. 3rd round, a clash of heads, and all of a sudden, to me, I thought Carl Drummond, he knows he's not going to get the rematch. There's no calling for it. You know that they're going to try to stop the fight at the most precious time for them to stop the fight when they know Shagayev's going to win. Let's face it, he's on enemy turf. Drummond, I thought, should have fought with much more heightened sense of urgency.
Yeah, how about a little bit of passion? You got a guy whose eye is basically fallen off. You've got the title on the line. You're in his hometown, and you do nothing? You just stare at him and kind of paw at him with the jab and occasionally throw a right hand? I mean, I just wanted to see. I don't understand that. This is your shot, and you don't take it. Why?
Yeah, there's one shot. He's not getting 2 or 3, Carl Davis Drummond.
No.
Wrapping it up here with tidbits, March 28th, Julio Cesar Chavez will be in Tijuana along with Humberto Soto and Fernando Montiel. March 7th in San Jose at the HP Pavilion, the Shark Tank, Robert Guerrero will be taking on some guy by the name of Duad Jordan. And then April 11th, get your tickets. Winky Wright takes on Paul Williams at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. Robert Guerrero against Jordan. I guess they're trying to build a local attraction. I saw this guy's record. He's out of Indonesia, built very, very soft. I expect an easy night. I expect there to be some ghost of busting going on from Robert Guerrero. But here's the thing. You're a brave soul. You went to Lemoore out in the middle of the driving rain. It was cold as hell, 3.5-hour drive. Will you go to TJ to watch boxing? Because I certainly am not, because I admit it, no. I am an absolute coward.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I would not go to TJ right now. I mean, I am Mexican and everything, but, you know, the glasses, the look, no, it's not going to fit in.
I wouldn't go to TJ right now to watch a boxing match or anything else, even if I had the Secret Service and I was flown in on Air Force One. I asked Bob Arum, is it safe over there? And Bob says, well, I'm going. What does that tell you? Let me tell you something, Bob. Unless I'm sitting next to you and Lovey, surrounded by your phalanx of bodyguards, yeah. I'll catch Latin Fury on pay-per-view.
What that says is Bob is too crazy to care.
Yeah, at this point, he's lived a full life. You know what? If it's your time to go, it's your time to go. April 11th, Winky Wright, Paul Williams at the Mandalay Bay. Get your tickets now. In fact, you know what? Get your tickets April 11th. I think this, to me, represents a lot of what has been wrong with boxing the last 10 to 15 years. Here's a fight that nobody wants, and you stick it in a stale atmosphere, and HBO is paying $3 million for it. This fight could be labeled Dana White's wet dream, because he points to events like that, and then he says, boxing is dead.
Yeah, you look at Williams, man, and you got to figure, where are you building your fan base? Do you want him to be an LA fighter? Do you want him to be an East Coast fighter?
Doesn't Dan Goosen say, oh, well, you know, Gabriel, guys, well, he's an LA fighter. He's fought 18 times. Okay, so why is he not at the Nokia Theater as planned? Why?
Yeah, this fight could be great at the Nokia. You could put it in the Staples possibly.
If Chris Arreola is the leadoff, which he's supposed to be, you could draw some tickets locally.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, Chris Arreola is definitely an LA attraction. I don't understand why this fight's in Vegas, and I don't know, maybe I'll drive to it. The
over-under on sold tickets, sold, not given away or discounted, I believe is 1,500. It'll be very interesting to see the pricing. I hear ringside is 300, which is very low for Vegas. Also, I want to see what they scale the arena at, because they can actually scale it to like 5,000 people at the Mandalay Bay. So we'll see how this does. And here's another news story, and I almost forgot about it completely till it was brought up before the show. Joe Calzaghe has announced his retirement. And you know what, Gabe? I don't give a damn.
Yeah, I kind of went, oh, huh.
I agree. Here's the thing about Joe Calzaghe. Number one, I don't know if he's really retired or not, but I think he's run out of old guys to pick on.
Yeah.
If there is a fight for him to make that would hold any type of interest, even though it may not be the greatest fight again, it would be the rematch with Bernard Hopkins somewhere in Europe. But I think Joe's made it very clear. He's not giving Bernard Hopkins another shot.
No, I would agree. That's probably the fight. I mean, he is, an older fighter too. It's a good matchup. It wasn't a very good fight to watch, but if anybody deserved a rematch, that was a close enough fight that you could do it again. Absolutely.
But not to take anything away from Joe Calzaghe. I don't necessarily care if he's gone or not. He didn't really, stir my soup. But here's the thing. Let's give him credit. I think along with Roy Jones, he was one of the 2 greatest super middleweights ever. He leaves the game as a top 5 pound-for-pound guy. He also leaves undefeated. So when it's all said and done, we could say whatever we want about his impact here. He is a certain first-ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh, absolutely. He'll get my vote. No question. I mean, at times he was very exciting to watch. The Lacey fight was a masterpiece. But ultimately, to me, the Jones and the Hopkins fights, they don't mean a lot to me. If he would have fought them 5 years ago when they were still dangerous guys, then yeah, I would be impressed. But to get them when they're near 40 or in their 40s, I don't know. It just left a lot to be desired.
A lot like Roy Jones, you just wondered, did they kind of die on their vine and they leave something on the table in a sense? From 98 to about 2002 or 3, these guys were at their physical apex among the very best fighters in the world. and they kind of stayed in their safe cocoon. One guy here at HBO in the United States taking on a line of missed mandatories. Joe Calzaghe under the safe cocoon of Frank Warren taking on a lot of B and C level guys. He's only taking on guys one step above Sven Otke. So I almost believe those guys are all-time greats at their weight class. You have to give them credit, but there is a sense of unfulfilled expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I have to give him props for consistency. You can't win that many fights and not be good and not always come to the gym with a solid work ethic and always be in shape. But yeah, there's just something that's just kind of missing. I just really wasn't that excited by Joe's career.
All right, well, that's it for this week's edition of TNR on behalf of Gabriel Montoya and the rest of Max Boxing. Till the next round, goodbye, everybody.